Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Esther, and if you're new here, I do sewing and DIY videos. And if you're watching my video today and you haven't subscribed yet, guys, what are you waiting for? We're almost hitting 1K, and if you want me to run a giveaway contest once we reach 1K subs, leave a comment in the comment section, okay, so that I would know if you guys want me to do it. Yeah, so yeah, let's move into today's video. So in today's video, we're going to make this cute satin dress that I saw on Pinterest. It's really basic, and the top part is has only the front, and then it has a lacing back or straps at the back. So that is basically what we're going to sew today. So if you're excited to sew with me, let's get right into today's video. So this is the front bodice pattern, and at the armhole I'll go up 2 inches. So I'll put a paper there to enable me to add the 2 inches. So after adding the 2 inches, I squared a line to the center front and then cut out the unwanted part. Now from the original armhole, I went down about 3 inches and drew a line to the point where the two dots meet, and then folded in the waist dart. From there, I slashed through the new line and then close the upper dart, and would only have a dart at around the bust area at the side seam. So that is the front pattern, and at the center front I will kind of straighten that part and cut it out. So after folding in the dart, the top part will be straight. So I'll be using the basic skirt blocks, and with mine I don't add that to the front, so this is just the basic skirt. You can make it any length you want. And this is the back. It has a dart which is a bit longer than usual because of my body type, and it also has a zip extension. So these are all the patterns we would need: the skirt pattern and the top part of the dress. And I'll be using this stretch satin. So now lay all your patterns on your fabric and cut them out. And with this fabric, because it has stretch, I just put the allowance on the skirt block just in case. So I wouldn't be sewing on the allowance. I'll sew about 1/4 inch before the allowance. I'll demonstrate for you guys to see. So when you cut your back skirt pattern, notch the dart, and at the point where the dart end, push a pin through to the fabric, and then now cut through the center back because there is a seam and because of the zip extension. So now you can go ahead and mark out your darts. So this is the back skirt, and now with the front, cut 2 of it, and we'll be using one as the lining. I'm cutting facing for the skirt now, and what you have to do is to lay your pattern on a fabric. You can decide the length of the facing you want, but mine is about 4.5 inches long. So now pin your pattern onto the fabric and cut your facing piece out. With the back piece also, remember to mark out your darts on the fabric just as we did for the main skirt piece. And then use a pin to punch holes through the dart legs to appear on the fabric. That will make it easy for you to draw out the dots. So notch them. And draw the dots on the other side as well. Now go ahead and cut out your straps, and this is the needle I'll be using for stretch fabrics. Now stitch the dart on your top piece and then make straps for the loops on the sides of the top. So mine measures about 2 inches for one, and mark out where you want your loops to be. You can put as many loops you want. It could be less or more. Do that for both sides. So once you've marked them out, now pin your loops and sew them. So I noticed the upper part of the top was a bit too wide, so I trimmed away about 1 inch off that side for both pieces. So I had to take away all the loops and sew it back on. So I went back and stitched the loops, and then now put your straps on the top part right before the allowance, so that after you sew and turn it inside out, the loop will be exactly at the corner. So once you're done pinning that, take the other piece of the top and face it right sides facing, and then sew it, leaving out the waist. After sewing it, now trim the corners so that by the time you finish turning it inside out, the corners will be really sharp. So for the skirt, mark your zip length, and then from where the zip length ends, stitch down to the hem. And then now I'm going to iron an interfacing around the area where the zip will be, so that it will reduce the tension over there after sewing the zip. So after that is done, I'll go ahead and stitch in my zip. So I would prefer to use an invisible zip, but I don't have it at the moment, so I use the normal zip. I would sew in my skirt that now, and after that is done, I will shape the skirt. So I will face the back skirt with the front skirt, right sides facing, and then mark out the allowance. And as I said earlier on, I wouldn't be sewing on the allowance because of the stretch in the fabric. So I would mark the allowance and sew inside about 1/4 inch like you see there. So once that is done, I trimmed off the excess allowance. Now I would also sew the side seams of the facing, just like we did for your skirt. So measure your allowance like you did for the main skirt on the facing pieces as well. So now I would trim it and make it straight. and cut away the allowance as well, the extra allowances. So this is our facing piece. Now we have to join all the pieces of this dress together, the front, the skirt, and the facing. So find the middle of the top, and then the front part of the skirt, and then also the front part of the facing, and then match all the middle together. So with the top, since they all have the same fabric, you can decide which part you want to be your front, and then put your facing fabric on top, right side facing, and then make sure you align all the seams with the skirt, because the top is only at the front, it doesn't really go to the side seam. So just make sure your facing is equal to the skirt, and then sew it. So once you're done sewing them together, make an understitch on the facing piece, push all the allowance to one side with the facing on top, and make an understitch. So this is how it looks now. What I'm going to do now is to finish all the raw edges with a zigzag stitch, and this is how it looks. And with the facing, I'm going to finish it off by folding it on top of the zip area, and then sew very close to the zip. So if you turn it out, this is how it should be looking. And then trim off the allowance around that place to remove bulkiness from that area. So this is how the facing is looking, really neat and nice. So what I'm going to do now is to fold in the hem. Our dress is ready to be worn, but I noticed the straps were a bit short, so I couldn't lace all the loops. I skipped them. So my straps measures 83 inches for one, so you can make yours about 150. So let's try the dress on and see how it looks.